Month of March, I am studying the incredible women of the Bible. I've already studied Mary, and today I'm going to look at her sister, Martha. Welcome back to my channel, Webs of Faith Elevate. My name is Abby. We see Martha 3 times in the Bible in the same 3 passages that we see her sister. Just like Mary, there isn't much we know about Martha. That all we know is that she was the sister of Mary and Lazarus, and that she was a friend of Jesus, and there had to be some sort of wealth that they had. Side fact, her name means lady boss and landlady. So that's kind of cool. In addition to what we know about Martha, there are some scholars who link her to Simon the leper. There are some who say that she's a widow. This is not biblically found or backed up by any means. They find this because of the connections of verses. So in Luke 10:38, when we are introduced to Martha, it's referred to as Martha's house. In some of the Gospels, when Jesus is being anointed at Bethany, it is referred to as Simon the leper's house. So there's some speculation that maybe Martha, it being her house, she was married to Simon the leper, who then was deceased and she became widowed. But obviously it was not a huge thing, because we don't actually know what was going on. So sometimes when we hear Martha, we think of her as the sister that we don't want to be identified with. But I think a ton of the times as women and wives and mothers, we can identify with Martha because she's the one doing what was expected versus Mary, who kind of stepped out of that cultural expectation. In Luke, when we see them, Martha is distracted by all of the things to get ready for Jesus to come. They are hosting Jesus. Culturally, it was the women's job to make sure that the house was prepared, the food was prepared, the places are prepared. We learn later on that Martha does refer to Jesus as the Messiah, so she knows he's the Son of God. So the weight of the guest who is coming was probably weighing on her. She probably felt like an immense amount of responsibility. Like, I'd be running around like a crazy person if I knew that I was hosting Jesus in my house. Like, I'd be cleaning all the baseboards and doing all of the things. The weight of the guest that's coming probably made her a little more stressed than normal. They make a point in the Bible to say distracted, that she was distracted. I think that's really important with how Jesus looks at it. There's nothing wrong with being hospitable or to be a servant. In fact, 1 Peter 4:9 tells us to be hospitable, and Romans 12:13 tells us to be a servant. We see over and over that being hospitable and being a servant and all of these things are good. They are good things, but it could distract us from Jesus, who is the best thing. And as long as we keep those responsibilities second to Jesus and his teachings, then we're good, and it's still good to do. Martha is probably running around crazy, probably sweating and hot and tired, and she looks over and she sees her sister sitting there at the feet of Jesus, just relaxing, listening to his stories. So she gets mad. And have you ever been in one of those situations where you feel like you're doing everything and you just look over and that person is just sitting there? You get so stressed because you feel like you're doing all of these things and that person isn't helping you in the way that you expect them to help you. Okay, so let's look at what happens in the Bible. So Martha is upset and she goes to Jesus and she's like, hey, tell her to help me. So she literally goes to Jesus and she's like, fix this. And he doesn't. Instead, he says, Martha, Martha, which is kind of a way of admonishing her and kind of like a tisk tisk, you're wrong. Haha, calm down. So he pretty much is saying, being worried and being stressed, like you're running around with all of these tasks when really I'm the only person you should be focused on. And you shouldn't care about anything else. Those are just, they're secondary to me, because Mary chose the thing that's going to be with her. Only is Jesus directing us to put chores second and to put Jesus first. He's also breaking down a cultural tradition, which we see throughout the New Testament. Jesus is kind of changing what it looks like for Christians, pulling us farther and further away from the world and more into what he's calling us to do. The second time we see Martha is John chapter 11, after her brother has died and they've called for Jesus. So she goes out to greet Jesus and she says the same thing Mary says. If you would have been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Then he questions her and he's like, do you know who I am? She's like, yes, you are the Messiah. You are the Son of God. You are who you say you are. So there she's showing an immense amount of faith and belief. This is such a strong verse for her to claim that he is the Son of God, that he is the Messiah. He is the one who was sent. The last time we see Martha is in John chapter 12 in the anointing of Bethany. Martha is seen yet again serving. We can learn through Martha's story. We do know that she had some things wrong. She'd put some things in the wrong order, But what we can learn from her is that she's an incredible servant. She is serving Jesus in her own way, and she is a loving person. She was doing what she was told to do. The other thing that we can learn from Martha is that she is incredibly faithful, and that she has an incredible amount of faith to declare that Jesus is who he says he is. I know personally for me, I learned from Martha's story that, we can sometimes put down the chores, especially if we haven't had our time, like quiet time. I would get so caught up in I need to get everything perfect that I would sacrifice that personal time with God. And that's not what he wants. He wants us to put him first, and then he'll give us time to do everything later. Please like and subscribe and follow along so that you're notified anytime that I post. I still have some incredible women that we are going to study through the month of March.